Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. If you don't already know, I have an Instagram. It's telegram_Sam_vinyl. So if you're on Instagram, check me on there. But to go along with end of the year recap videos, I'm going to be showing today my 10 best finds of 2022. These are just used records that I just happened to find out in the wild that could cross off my most wanted list. I have 3 45s and 7 full-length albums to show you guys, so let's get into it. First off, a band I have really been loving this year. This is the Oh Yeah / South Down single from Roxy Music. This is an original 1980 Japanese press, pop, rock, experimental. As most people know, Japanese presses usually just sound amazing. So it's the same thing with this. It sounds great, and I don't know. I just find the audio quality on most 45s to be really astounding, and this one is exceptional. But Oh Yeah was a song off of forgetting what album it is, but it's the one from 1980, obviously. But the B side is where the single's at. This has South Downs as the B side, which wasn't featured on any of their albums. I don't think it was featured on an official release until they did some like CD comp in the early 2000s that was on. Besides that, you had to get it with the single. But it's this really, really cool sort of proggy new wave keyboard synthesizer instrumental that Brian Ferry does, and it's just so freaking cool. Of course, Oh Yeah is a great song, but South Downs is the one I was looking for, and this is just great. And next up, we have Give Me Some Money, backed with You Don't Love Me by the Gories. This is an original 1991 US press. This is the 36th release from the first volume of the Sub Pop Singles Club, and there was 4,500 of these pressed, and I think they did a more limited run of a pink color and a blue color, but I'm happy with the red color, the red translucent one. The Gories are a great sort of rock, blues, garage, kind of like the White Stripes in the Black Keys, just very much proto that. You can definitely hear the influence that this band had on especially the White Stripes, considering the Gories are a Detroit band. But yeah, such a great killer band that I've been dying to get some stuff from, and it was super, super cool to find one of their OG 45s out in the wild. Next, something I didn't even know existed until I just found it at one of my local stores. This is a promo 45 for the documentary Mayor of the Sunset Strip. For those of you who may not be familiar with this documentary, is about the legendary sort of, I don't even know what you would call him. Rodney Bingenheimer had a radio station for a while. I think he still does on Sirius XM in LA, and then he was the owner of Rodney's English Disco, which was a very influential big club in LA during the 70s, where a lot of like all the rock stars would go. It was where sort of glam rock kind of flowered in LA, and he also was a big sort of cheerleader for the early LA punk movement. And even in the 60s, he just knew all these crazy people, like was really good friends with all the people from the Moms and the Papas. Kind of just one of those people that just for some reason he just knew everyone important and was very ahead of trends. There's some great interviews that he does with David Bowie, early Coldplay, since Rodney was one of the first major radio DJs to play Coldplay in the States, which some people might see as a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your prerogative. But it's just a really cool documentary, and I guess they released these to sort of help promote the release of the documentary. It has like a little info card saying see in theaters in the spring of 2004. But yeah, the two songs on the first side, the first thing is like a little introduction to finding out about Rodney Bingenheimer, and then the second side is a song called Mayor of the Sunset Strip by Mayor Zane, and then the B side is the live version of Los Angeles by X, which they show in the movie. And then the last song is a Rodney original called I Hate the 90s that he plays with the band Tube Tops. It's just really cool, and I'm a major fan of this documentary. So this is just a really cool find. All right, next up for the long plays. This is probably my best find of the year, and it was kind of on accident. This is the self-titled album by The Seeds, original 1966 U.S. monopress, such an influential garage rock band, very proto-punk. You can definitely hear the beginnings and sound of punk on this album. I actually think the record store I bought this from thought it was a stereo version because I think I paid $20 for it. But the mono ones like this go for between $120 and $150. At least that's the median price on Discogs. Do I think I would get that for this if I were to sell it? No, this is kind of a very rough copy. As you can see, the cover has seen better days, and it kind of has like a weird bend to it. Surprisingly, the record itself isn't warped. It's just kind of scratched, and it has some pretty noisy spots, and it skips on a few tracks. But I mean, I've never seen an original copy, whether it's mono or stereo, of any of the Seeds records out in the wild before. So I'm just happy to have something by them. Maybe if I find a better version, I might upgrade that. But I'm just so thrilled to have just something OG of theirs. So that was a really cool find of this year. Another big grail that I was able to cross off my list thanks to Trent from Trent's Records. I have shown this a couple times. I recently just played a song from this album on my last 5 songs I'm obsessed with video. But this is Lucille Has Messed My Mind Up by Jeff Simmons. This is an original 1969 U.S. press blues psych rock. So great. I mean, I'm obsessed with the title track. It was produced by Frank Zappa, and Jeff Simmons was shortly in the Mothers of Invention, I think for like a year or two. But yeah, such a cool album. If you are into rock, psych, bluesy stuff, this is totally up your alley. Such a great album, and kind of hard to find. These are steadily going up in price. I think the median on Discogs right now is like $75, but Trent gave me a really, really good deal on it, and I'm just very stoked to have this. Next up, another record I had no idea existed until I saw it at the bins in my local record store. This is the self-titled album by Gang War, aka sort of the super group of Johnny Thunders from New York Dolls and his own solo stuff, and Wayne Kramer from the MC5. I cannot believe, as two huge fans of both of these people, that I had no idea this even existed. But this is originally came out in 1990 U.S. press. A lot of the stuff was recorded during the 80s when this band was briefly together. I think they were together for less than a year before they disbanded. Sort of the short story behind this band is that Wayne Kramer did a 4-year stint in prison because he sold some drugs to an undercover cop. So he spent 4 years in prison, got out in 1979, and he thought the easiest way for him to make money was to go up to New York to kind of just be a session musician, kind of integrate himself in the flourishing punk rock and roll scene that was happening in New York to hopefully get some quick money. And this was one of the projects he did when he first moved to New York. Some of the Wayne Kramer's greatest guitar playing is on the B-side. So the B-side is made up of demos they did, and then the first side is some snippets of a show they did at Max's Kansas City. The sound on the live side is not great, and you can tell Johnny Thunders is high as a kite and is phoning it in. He's barely singing, is barely playing guitar. But the B-side is where this is at. But yeah, this is just a really cool find of two of some of my favorite musicians. And yeah, I would say if you're a really big fan like me of these two musicians, this is a cool thing to have, but I don't think it's an essential that everyone should have. But I believe this is the only version of this that has ever been released on vinyl. I think they did a CD in like the 2000s that has even more material on it. Again, I'm not sure what that has on it or what the sound quality is like, but this is pretty cool. Next up, another big grail I got to cross off my list this year. This is Songs the Lord Taught Us by the Cramps. This originally came out in 1980, and this is a 1982 U.S. press. Would I love to have an original 1980 press? Yes, but even those are very expensive, and I know the likelihood of me just finding a cheap copy out in the wild is very unlikely, so I will gladly take this $40 2 years after it was initially released reissue. But yeah, rock, psychobilly, punk, I mean, such an influential, it not only opened the door for psychobilly, but it blew the door off the hinges. I mean, they completely changed punk, garage rock, psychobilly. They created psychobilly with this album, in my opinion. I mean, just one of my all-time favorite bands and one of my all-time favorite albums, really. Just so killer. I mean, I'm kind of happy that, the new Wednesday Addams show has introduced maybe a younger audience who may not be familiar with the Cramps to some of their stuff through the use of the song Goo Goo Muck and the famous dance scene from that show. And hopefully there'll be more Cramps fans out there because they're just such a fucking cool band. I love them so much. Next up, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a hard record to find, but I just never see them, and especially in the condition I found this one in. This is Grievous Angel by Graham Parsons. This is an original 1974 U.S. press country rock folk. I mean, I just love Graham Parsons. I love what he did with the Flying Burrito Brothers, the Byrds. He has a major influence on the Rolling Stones, and they were writing one of their great albums, Exile on Main Street. And Graham Parsons' solo stuff is just phenomenal. He unfortunately had a pretty short career, a very short life, and I believe this was released either right before or right after he died. But man, what a killer album, and I've been looking for this for a really long time. I'd seen reissues and I almost got them, but I was like, no, my spidey senses are telling me this is the year I finally find an OG nice copy, and this one was actually still partially in the shrink. It just had the side open, but even the record looked like it only played like 1 or 2 times before someone just put it away and never touched it again. And luckily it ended up in my hands, and I'm just very thankful and happy to finally have an amazing copy of this amazing album. Next up, going down to the blues, this is The Real Folk Blues by Muddy Waters. This is an original 1966 U.S. mono press, Chicago, Delta blues. Muddy Waters is one of my all-time favorite bluesmen. I'm kind of on the trek to have all OG mono versions of all of the records he ever did. Willie Dixon and Howlin' Wolf are definitely up there as my all-time favorites when it comes to blues music, and this one is a really cool comp of some of the traditional folky blues songs he did, like Manish Boy, Walkin' in the Park, Walkin' Blues, Canary Bird, Gypsy Woman, Rollin' and Tumblin', You Can't Lose What You Ain't Never Had, just staples of blues music. I think they also did a version of this with Howlin' Wolf and maybe Chuck Berry. Chess was kind of known for doing things like this, especially towards the 60s and 70s, where they would do like a series, like they did the London sessions. They did the like real folk blues sessions with their various artists, and they also did the electric sessions just to try to keep their label and their artists relevant to a very changing music sound and scene. But yeah, I mean, just anything by Muddy Waters is fantastic. And last but not least, another punk grail gets crossed off my list this year. This is Back from Samoa by the Angry Samoans. Originally came out in 1982. This is a 1989 U.S. press, punk rock. This is just such a fun record. And of course, I would love to have an original first press 1982 version of this record, but those are just very rare, very expensive. I know it would probably be a miracle if I ever found one for cheap, or if I just came across some expendable income to just throw on original. I find very unlikely, so I'm very happy to have this later 80s reissue. I think, again, I paid like 30 or 40 bucks for it, and that's about what it goes for on Discogs. Again, just to have a really great version and great sound copy of this album is cool. Yeah, just really, really stoked to finally have this. They do an amazing cover of the where is it? Time Has Come Today, the great song by the Chambers Brothers. But yeah, again, kind of, it's an acquired taste, Angry Samoans. I feel like this is an album I would recommend to someone who's like 3 or 4 years into discovering punk music and they want to kind of dive deeper into some of the more kookier, fun, kind of leaning on offensive punk rock. Kind of like right before you get into Gigi Allen, this is like what you should dip your toes in if you're kind of want to trudge in those waters. But yeah, such a great album, and one I've been looking for a really long time, and super happy to find this late 80s reissue of. But yes, those were my 10 best finds of 2022. Let me know if you found any cool stuff this year in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.